So Tottenham Hotspur have maintained the unbeaten away record by coming from 2 goals down to get a fairly creditable point at Brighton and Hove Albion. So let's get straight into Brighton 2, Tottenham Hotspur 2. So coming into this game, Thomas Frank made 3 changes from the team that beat Villarreal 1-0 in midweek. Coming in, Wilson Odobert, Destiny Doggy, and João Palhinha with Xavi Simons, Papsar, and Jed Spence coming out of the team. I guess the main news really was that Simmons wasn't in the starting lineup. He's someone that we've seen pushed to the left, and I don't know whether that is Thomas Frank just trying to integrate him a little bit more, just sort of get a feel for the league, for the sort of way that he wants to play and that sort of thing. But that was a big news, really. Wilson Odobert, I'm pretty sure that was his first start, definitely a first start for Destiny Adoghi, who I actually thought played really well. I think on that left hand side, as good as Spence is, I think my preference probably is a doggy, just purely because it's a left footer on the left side. It's actually quite a nice problem to have. Obviously, Spence coming out of the team played a lot of football at the start of the season, so nice to see Destiny a doggy come in. So going into the match, Tottenham really, I think we asserted ourselves quite well in the first half. A lot of possession, really high up the pitch, which would eventually cost us for the first goal. Really nice, clever break by Brighton. I think it was Ruta that put Yankuba Minte through, and then rounded Vicario and put Brighton 1-0 up. But there was something about that first goal which I don't know if. I mean, Vicario and Romero, it almost seemed like they were just a bit like they'd almost give up on it before the ball got into the goal, and like, they may be justified in that, but I think just aesthetically it looked a bit soft. And yeah, we started the game well, found ourselves 1-0 down. And really, I think that didn't stop us. I think we're still looking to play high up the pitch, regardless of going 1 goal down. We're still looking to really like get in behind, and there's quite a few chances. I think there's a few times which it fell to Odobert on the left hand side, and maybe the final ball was lacking a little bit, or maybe one of these balls where it was into the right area, but a defender just got there. Um, and I felt like it felt like that was a lot of the first half for Tottenham, just in terms of the way our luck was falling in the final third. It just felt like it was maybe just a yard or two off it, and maybe lacking a bit of clinical edge. And then on the topic of clinical edge, Brighton doubled their lead through, I think it's Daniel Ayare. Really poor from Vicario for this goal. He really is that sort of technique where they hit it and the ball's moving in the air, sort of flat, and you can see how it would deceive Vicario just because of the way it was when it was being hit. It was always going away from goal, in that sense, which is obviously why it went in at the far corner. But I think a big reason for that was Vicario. I don't think he got the strongest hand to it, which really felt like 2 quite soft goals to give away, which was very frustrating considering that we were, for large parts of the game, in control and hadn't really been punished. The first goal, yes, it was a counter attack, which can happen when you're playing a team like Brighton. We've seen them do it to Man City a couple of times when they played them a few weeks ago. But that second goal, that was really disappointing from Vicario, and it's one of them where I think if he didn't get a hand on it, maybe we wouldn't be as harsh. But the fact that he did get a hand on it was quite a weak wrist that he got on it. And look, I think over the course of the season, Vicario's contribution to Spurs is net positive. I definitely think that he saved us a lot of points over the years he's been here. And I think even the Europa League, even though there was that Højlund header which he fumbled and very nearly cost us, he did make some big saves. So I think with Vicario, it's net positive, but he does sort of have that ability to, just sort of concede a goal which looks quite soft and isn't really up to the standard that you think you would hold him accountable to. And I guess in I think with Vicario, he reminds me a lot of, and it's a comparison which a lot of people have made, and I don't think it will sound the greatest to him. But it is sort of I'd say it's a compliment. It's Aurelio Gomez because when Gomez was at Spurs, he was very, very good at shot stopping, but he did have that little tiny percentage where he'd sort of. I don't think Vicario's as bad, but Gomez certainly could definitely drop quite a few clangers, but they'd also make some ridiculous saves that would even them out over the course of the season. I think in terms of the Gomez comparison, they're both very, as goalkeepers, they're both like very long arms, long legs, and I think they sort of look a bit unorthodox and maybe a bit uncomfortable and shaky. But that's just their style, and I think Vicario, yes, it was poor, but he shouldn't be held over the coals for it. He's gonna make up for that over the course of the season. I'm sure of that. Um, but yeah, 2-0 down, still kept fighting, still kept plugging away. Mo Kudus, I think he was really relentless in the first half. I think in the first half, Ferdi Kadioglu really had a battle with him, which I think in the first half, Kadioglu probably come out on top against Kudus. But one thing about Kudus is that he's relentless. He just keeps going, and you can see that Kadioglu, especially in the first half hour of the game, was probably getting a bit more joy out of Kudus than he was expecting. But that didn't stop Kudus. He was still demanding the ball, still going for it. And yeah, the exact sort of attitude I think you want at Spurs. Um, Also, I thought Bentancur was quite good. He was finding himself probably more advanced than Paulinho. Obviously, Bergwijn was pushing forward the most out of them, but there was a couple of times um, where Bentancur would find himself on the edge of the box or in the box, and I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. He's shown before, at least under Conte, that he's definitely capable of scoring a few goals. But yeah, I think Bentancur, Udogie, Kudus, I think they were good in the first half despite the scoreline. Richarlison, one thing I did notice when we were chasing the game is that there were quite a few balls where they weren't necessarily bad balls, but they maybe would be made to look bad because the defender would sort of easily get them away. And I think he was just in the first half a little bit off it in terms of getting across his man, trying to get on the end of things. And I think that little 1 or 2 yards that he maybe wasn't switched on, it was making things quite easy for Van Hecke and Dunk. Um, but obviously Van Hecke and Dunk, their clean sheet was gone towards the end of the half for Richarlison scoring to make it 2-1. A third league goal of the season for Richarlison, which he's a player in form, I guess. You could say in that sense. Yeah, quite fortuitous the way the goal went in. But it come from press and high up the pitch, and I think it come to Bentancur who had it on the edge of the box, and there was probably I think it might have been a 4v3 or something like that on the edge of the box, and we just seemed to you know take too much time, and then somehow the ball finds out to Kudus, deflection. I don't think it was a deflection actually. I think it was just I don't know if it's a pass or a shot. Finds itself at Richarlison who hits it at Verbruggen who can't stop it going in. And there was a couple moments during that little build up where I was thinking, we've absolutely wasted this chance here. We've 100% wasted this. We should have been more clinical. So a bit of luck in that sense, in the way that the ball went in. So going in um, largely a pretty dominant performance in the first half in terms of possession, but not really doing too much with it. So at halftime to only be 2-1 down, knowing that there's quality on the bench, I don't think it was a bad place for us to be in. Speaking of that quality from the bench, we've seen Xavi Simons come on for, I think it was Wilson Odegaard. No, it was Rodrigo Bentancur. So that was, as we were chasing the game, it was Paulinho and then Bergwijn a little bit deeper with Simons ahead. And I don't think that it's a coincidence that Bergwijn and Simons centrally, we looked a lot better at progressing the ball. And then you've obviously got, at the time, you had Odegaard on the left and then you had Kudus on the right, who both themselves, you know, can be pretty relentless in terms of running at their man. Is something that I probably would like to see Wilson Odegaard do a little bit more of, if I'm honest. I think that can probably come with a bit more confidence. But yeah, Simmons come on. He had quite a few nice touches, really advancing us through the middle of the pitch, which I think has been an issue this season with Spurs. Obviously, we've seen Frank. Largely, what we've seen so far, it's been quite a compact midfield, and it would either be maybe Bergval or Sarr as that more advanced midfielder. But with Simmons in his natural positions, Bergval a little bit deeper, helping to build up the play. Paulinho's just there to do his defensive work. I think we looked a lot better, and yeah, we looked a lot better, and we pushed and we pushed and we pushed, and yeah, there was a couple of times where we nearly got caught out, but we really, really were in this tendency, and you could sense that that equaliser was coming, and it did eventually come. I think it was an own goal of Van Hecke, brilliant ball in by Kudus. Yes, he won't get the assist for it, but he played a massive part in really putting that ball into the box, which obviously has hit Van Hecke and gone in. Um, and then Simmons, we mentioned him, very, very nearly got his first Spurs goal, which I thought was the winner. Lovely little link up with, I think it might have been Bergval. And then got the ball, sort of advanced into the area. Brighton players sort of standing off him. And he tried that. I think we've seen it a few times in some of the highlights packages, which I've been watching of Simmons when he was joining Spurs. That sort of low guided, sort of curved shot across the keeper, which Verbrugge made a great save to stop it. And yeah, other than that, I can't think of too many other chances really. Um, yeah, I think we looked a lot better with Simmons through the middle. Obviously, Bergval a bit deeper, which is helping the play. And yeah, I think at 2-0 down, we definitely would have took a point. Um, I think worse teams are going to go there and get beat. I think better teams than us are probably going to go there and get beat. We've already seen Man City have fallen victim to Brighton, and it's a ground which the last 2 years we've struggled at. A 4-2 loss in Ange's first season, and then I can't even remember what the scoreline was last year, but I knew it wasn't. I know it wasn't good. 3-2, that was it. Yeah, we're 2-0 up and lost 3-2. So definitely the comeback shoes on the other foot in that sense. So yeah, I think for my first three games of the season, taking 7 points from West Ham, Manchester City, and Brighton. I think that's quite good. Definitely good. I think if maybe it was the other way around, we'd beat Brighton and West Ham. We got a point at City. I think generally that sort of outlook would be. I think people would be a lot more comfortable with that. But yes, last year obviously 2-0 down. Brighton were last year and won 3-2, and now we've come back from 2-0 down to get a point. And I don't think it's a sort of game which it might be cliche, but I don't think we would have come back from last year. And obviously, it's hard to judge last year because the league's a little bit of an anomaly uh, because of obviously Europa League taking priority. But yeah, great character to come back and get a point there. And it's one which, yes, you probably were hoping for all three, which you do with every single Spurs game. Whether you expect 3 points is a different thing. But it was a weird one because when we were 2-0 down, I was weirdly quite zen in because I could see that we were on top, and I sort of felt like as long as we don't concede a third, I really, really feel like we'll get something from this game. And then obviously the goal from Richarlison before halftime definitely changed that. Um, Points dropped, um, you would say, in terms of us expecting to beat Brighton, but um, yeah, I think there's still work to be done. I think what I personally think is happening at Spurs is I think Thomas Frank's probably gone in there and really tried to nail down us having a defensive foundation which is solid. And I think he's gone in there and he's probably looked to improve that defense first before anything else because the personnel in that defense is good enough, more than good enough. You've got, fullbacks, you've got Porro, Adogi, Spence, and then the centre backs, Van der Ven, Romero, Danso as a backup. Then you've got Dragusin, who I think is probably going to be a bit more suited to Thomas Frank's management than Ange Postecoglou's. You've also got Ben Davies as a sort of fifth choice option. You've got Koto Taka who can come in. it wasn't an area that we addressed in the summer. By all accounts, they were sort of looking at Manuel Akanji. Don't know how true that was, but I feel like the defensive foundations are being set in the early parts of the season, and I'm hoping that the attacking cohesion is to come because out of Frank's management so far at Spurs, I'd say that's probably the one area that we haven't really clicked. Obviously, there's can be a number of reasons for that. You've got Dejan Kulusevski, James Maddison not fit. Xavi Simons is just coming into the team into a new league. And then obviously you've got Solanke, who's not fit at the moment, Kolo Muani, who wasn't even on the bench. And you've got players like Odegaard and Tell, where by all means that left wing position is there for the taking for either of them, I think, along with Brennan Johnson. But I think, and I've maybe throw Johnson into the mix as well in terms of players that are maybe just lacking that bit of confidence to really step up and make that left wing spot their own. Um, we of course know that it was an area Spurs were looking at in the summer. There was some faint links with Ademola Lookman, and then obviously much stronger links with Savinho. But I feel like the attacking cohesion is to come, and I think a big part of that um, could be Xavi Simons coming in and playing through the middle. We've seen it today. Not today. I'm recording this the day after. We've seen it yesterday, and yeah, I think it's something which is going to take time. But as long as we can be a bit more solid defensively and become hard to beat, then I think it sort of affords us more time to find our rhythm in an attacking sense. And that can come through a number of different ways. Like you mentioned, some of the players that are injured, them coming back, and then obviously, Kolo Muani didn't. I think he played against Villarreal, but didn't really play too much uh, football against Villarreal. But he's going to be playing more games. And yeah, the games are coming thick and fast. Doncaster on Tuesday, so I think that's a game which we might see the likes of, some of the fringe players like Antonin Kinski, Matisse Tell, Kevin Danso, Archie Gray. I'd probably expect all four of them to start on Tuesday, if I'm honest, purely because they've not played loads of football this season, and I think they're players which Thomas Frank's gonna need across the season. He's gonna need every single player in the squad, and I think keeping them on side, some nice early rotation in a game which is definitely winnable against a Doncaster side who are doing quite well in League One, but obviously you'd definitely expect Spurs to beat them, whether they will or not. It's not necessarily a guarantee. We've seen Grimsby knock out Man United, so it's not a foregone conclusion. But I definitely think it's a game where some of these squad players can come in. Is it going to be a game where we see Simmons through the middle for a full 90 or from the starting position? Um, Not sure, but it's a game which, if we can carry on the momentum, get a win in that game through to the next round of the cup, hopefully a favourable draw. But overall, I think it's been a positive start to the season for Spurs. It's not been perfect by any sense. The Bournemouth game was very bad. Villarreal wasn't great. Brighton, I think, more good than bad, but still not amazing. But to take 7 points from West Ham City and Brighton, to have beaten Burnley at home as well. I think the Super Cup, that was very, very unlucky. So I think the performances, aside from the Bournemouth game and maybe bits of the Villarreal game, I think it's been fine. And I'm hoping that this attacking cohesion is going to we're going to find that when the games are coming thick and fast. So there's going to be Carabao Cup, hopefully more of that, Champions League, Premier League games. So Thomas Frank's going to need to use all of his squad, and I'm hoping that he can try some new things and really sort of get that attacking rhythm flowing. Because I think when that comes, we're definitely going to look like a better team. Whether he can keep the defensive foundations that he's already installed, if he can do both, then I think we're in with a shout of becoming a really, really serious team um, this season. But yeah, hopefully that can come. It's still early on in the season. We've only had one international break, so a lot can change. There might be injuries to come. There might be sales or transfers in. Who knows? It's going to be a long old season. So I'm going to keep my powder dry. And with Frank, I'm trying to judge him based off of the last few managers we've had. I've always sort of bought into the hype. With Conte, I bought into the hype. And I massively bought into the hype. And I'm trying to be a bit objective with Frank, and I think so far he's done a good job. Um, and I think, like I mentioned, the main area really which I would say I'd be worried about if it wasn't addressed within, maybe the end of the season or in 18 months. If we're still lacking a bit of attacking cohesion, I think that will, um, if that issue still persisting long term, I think that'd be a bit of a problem. But I've really backed Thomas Frank to get the most out of these players. His man management's really good, and I think he's going to rotate a lot this season. And maybe that's when these sort of cup games like Doncaster, if someone like Tell or Odebear can get on the score sheet or have a good game, likewise with even the likes of Xavi Simmons, and build that confidence. And you're not to say confidence is a superpower, it really is, especially in football. And yeah, if we can do that and then beat Wolves on Saturday, I think we're in a really, really good position. And yeah, but other than that, that's about it. That's all I have to say about Spurs 2, Brighton 2. It should be Brighton 2, Spurs 2 to set the Amex. But either way, we'll move on to Doncaster at home on Tuesday night in the Carabao Cup. And hopefully, Spurs can progress through to the Carabao Cup um, fourth round. Either way, it's a competition which I think is really, really winnable for us this season. And it's a competition which gets dismissed a lot in terms of people playing down trophies. But since Bilbao, we've had that taste for success, and I don't want to wait another 17 years for it, if I'm honest. I thought it was fucking brilliant. It really, really was. And I want as much of that as I can get. And I think the Carabao Cup is a really, really good, um, it's a really good and the quickest route to a trophy this season, in terms of the calendar. So I really would like us to take it seriously and take every cup competition seriously because days like Bilbao, which as I'm filming this was exactly 4 months today. There's stuff that we're gonna, if you have kids or extended family, those are the sorts of stories that you tell them about Tottenham and the good times, which we look back on in years to come. But I'm waffling. Um, let's let's see how we get on against Doncaster first, because I could be rambling all this and then we could go out, but hoping we don't. If you made it this far, I don't know, leave a comment, say hold me closer, Kevin Dancer, I guess. But yeah, mentioned in the last one that there is a exciting project dropping soon. I'm really, really hoping to release that very soon because I think it's something which I'm really proud of. And yeah, hopefully it's coming soon. So watch this space. And until then, up Spurs.